My name is Michael Schultes. This is my speech on Bill Gates. One of the wealthiest men in the world, Bill Gates, who is worth over $90 million, is mostly known for the wealth that he has acquired. Bill, who is the founder of Microsoft, made his wealth through the creation of home computers and computer operating systems. However, with all his wealth comes a lot of people who only know him because of his money. And that should not be the case, for he is doing so much more than the people realize. But before we talk about how he's made an impact on the world, we must first talk about how he started off in Microsoft. In his blog, Gates explains how he was born in Seattle, Washington in 1955, along with two other sisters. In The Rise of Bill Gates, an article written by Matt Weinberger in Business Insider, it explains that Gates was groomed by his parents at a young age to be a lawyer and studied in law. But Gates loved figuring out how computers ticked and loved programming computers. He goes on to explain that Gates was considered a smart businessman who attended Harvard with no major or any plans, but spent most of his time messing with the computers at the school. He also explains how Gates made some good connections while at Harvard, including the co-founder of Microsoft. The two started trying to code early computers at the time, ended up moving to New Mexico and dropping out of Harvard. A few years later, Gates met back up with some college friends, including Steve Ballmer, who by the late 80s, Gates was relying on him to deal with the sales of Microsoft. By that time, Ballmer got into the company. Bill was already well established in the computer world. Once Microsoft started to take off in the early 1980s, we saw a change in the lives of everyday people. Weinberger explains that by 1987, Bill Gates was already a billionaire at the young age of 31. And by 1995, Gates was named as the world's richest man. He would hold that title for 12 years until it was surpassed. He is still one of the richest people in the world, but was recently surpassed by the CEO of Amazon. With all of his wealth, however, how did Gates change the world as we know it today? When Microsoft released Windows 95 in August of 1995, this technology helped shape the way computers worked for the next couple decades. In Windows 95, at 20, How Bill Gates' Software Changed the World by James Titcomb, he talks about how over 40 million copies of the operating system being sold helped Microsoft become the biggest company in the world at the time. He goes on by saying that just a week after the release of Windows 95, Internet Explorer hit the market, and this was many people's first web browser. This was a perfect fit for the company because it helped people realize what the computers were capable of, and it worked perfectly with Windows operating system. Because of this, market for personal home computers skyrocketed, almost doubling in the first few years. Without the release of Windows 95, the computers that we now use on a daily basis would probably not quite be the same without Bill Gates and his team. As we have seen so far, his impact on the world through his technology inventions were very influential. His charity works really define who Bill Gates is, however. And Bill Gates gives $4.6 billion to charity, and the biggest donation since 2000 by Rupert Neate. He talks about how since 1994, Bill Gates has donated over $35 billion to charities of their choosing. Gates has also done good things by starting his own foundation called the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, talked about in his blog, aimed at helping students go to school, as well as other things such as helping the fight against polio. Neate also says that Gates has set up other foundations trying to get clean energy to all the world who needs it. With all of these great foundations and money given to charities for good work, Bill Gates has also found ways to help even more people in the world. Neate explains that in 2010, Gates, along with many other of the world's richest people, created a pledge to give at least half of their money away to charity. Along with Gates, over 170 richest people in the world, have agreed to this pledge. With all the money in the world, Gates has used his money for the greater good, and it's influenced other people to do the same. Bill Gates is one of the most influential people of this time period, and he continues to do so even today. With the invention of the home computer and Microsoft empire, he helped shape the world that we know it. But how he uses his wealth that he has attained over the years defines who he is and what he stands for. In the words of Gates, technology is unlocking the innate compassion we have for fellow human beings. This quote defines Bill Gates perfectly, using the money that he gets from his technology breakthroughs to help everyone who needs it. This is how he should be remembered, not for his money, but how he used it to help the people around him. Thank you.